The moment she kissed James under the chandelier, the crowd screamed. I blinked once and typed, "Congrats!" My comment got buried under thousands of likes and heart emojis. I watched their lips pressed together on loop. Her hand rested on his chest, her eyes closed like she'd been waiting years for that moment. The video was shaky, probably filmed on someone's phone. You could hear laughter in the background, a toast, someone yelling, "Kiss again!" Elena obliged without hesitation. It was forwarded to me by a coworker with a simple text. "Isn't this your girlfriend?" I didn't respond. Instead, I clicked play again. There she was. Same black off-shoulder dress she told me she was only wearing because it was formal but boring. Funny, I hadn't even been invited to the event. Said it was too exclusive. Internal staff only. Her company had just secured a massive acquisition deal. She told me she'd be too busy all night and to just rest early. And now here she was, kissing James, the same James who had conveniently returned from overseas just 8 months ago. The same James who was introduced to me as an old friend. Nothing more. The same James who texted her at midnight with memes that apparently had to be opened immediately. I watched the video again, this time focusing on the background. Red wine, champagne flutes, guests in suits and glittering gowns, and Elena right in the center, bathed in golden light like the star of the night. And James, polished, smiling, smug as ever. Their faces were so close, their silhouettes almost cinematic. I adjusted the volume and caught a guest shouting, "Finally, the perfect couple." My thumb hovered over the screen. I scrolled down, saw dozens of comments. They look so good together. It's about time she moved on from that loser boyfriend. James and Elena were always meant to be. My face didn't move. Not a single twitch. I kept scrolling. And I typed, "After sneaking around for so many years, they finally dare to kiss openly. Glad it's trending. Congrats." I hit send. And just like that, I closed the app and opened my work email. There was a pending proposal I hadn't finished last night. I started typing a reply to my manager. The keystrokes were steady, rhythmic, emotionless. No rage, no heartbreak. Just a strange clarity, like a final door quietly clicking shut. There was nothing more to feel. Nothing left to shout. No one cheats by accident. No one kisses like that without meaning it. Maybe the signs were always there. The way she smiled at him when she thought I wasn't watching. The way she always defended him when I brought up boundaries. Maybe the most humiliating part wasn't the kiss. Maybe it was the fact that I didn't even flinch when I saw it. I clicked save on my draft email. Then I muted my phone and let it fall face down on the table. For the first time in years, the silence didn't feel like punishment. It felt like peace. When Elena first entered my life, she carried the kind of charm that made people pause mid-sentence. The kind that made you forgive delays, missed calls, sharp words, and hollow apologies. I met her at a networking event 3 years ago. She had just joined her firm as a junior analyst. I remember her shoes, too tight for comfort, but she still walked like she owned the floor. I remember her laughter, the way it filled the gaps in any silence. I remember thinking, if I could be the person who made her laugh like that forever, that'd be enough. We started slow. Coffee runs between meetings. Shared playlists, a midnight call that lasted till sunrise. Within months, we were in a relationship. I called it love. She didn't call it anything. Labels are outdated, she'd say. But she held my hand when no one was looking, texted me when I was away, and cried when I forgot her birthday once. So I assumed that meant something. For 3 years, I adjusted my life to fit her tempo. When my father had his first heart scare, I was at the hospital with him day and night. I asked her to visit. She said she would. She didn't. She said James had a fever and he needed her. Fever. Not an emergency. Not a collapse. Just a sneeze and a sore throat. But she brought him soup and stayed the night. That was the same evening my father asked, "Is she coming?" I lied and said she was caught in traffic. I warmed the food again and ate in silence. When James came back from abroad, everything shifted. I was no longer the center, just the placeholder. She'd speak of him casually. "He's changed so much," she said. I didn't realize how much I missed having someone who gets me. I tried to ask what that meant. She rolled her eyes. Don't get insecure. You know you're different. Different. Not special. Not important. Just not James. At dinners with her colleagues, I was never invited. They don't really bring partners, she'd say. And besides, no one knows I'm dating. I nodded. She called it professionalism. I called it hiding. Not once in those 3 years did she post a photo with me. She posted latte art. Her cat knew books sunsets, but not me. Still, I was patient. I believed time fixed things. I believed that the version of her I met, the girl in tight shoes and loud laughter, would come back. I cooked her favorite meals, left notes on her mirror, remembered every important date, bought gifts she never asked for. She forgot my birthday once, said she thought it was the next week. I laughed it off. 2 weeks ago, she messaged me, "Company banquet tomorrow. You should come." That was her version of an apology. I replied, "Sure." She didn't send the invite. Didn't mention the venue? Nothing. I waited, hoping she'd remember. She didn't, so I looked it up myself. When I reached the hotel, the guards wouldn't let me in. No name. No pass. No entry. I called her. No answer. I sent 3 messages. No reply. I stood there for 15 minutes watching the guests arrive, suits, gowns, laughter, and then James walked in with her. They didn't see me. Or maybe they did. Didn't matter. I turned around and walked home. The city lights blurred against the cold glass windows of passing cars. I didn't feel cold. I didn't feel anything. By the time I got home, my phone buzzed, a forwarded video. I tapped it, and there it was. Elena in that black off-shoulder dress, arms around James, kissing him like no one else existed. People in the background clapped. Someone shouted, "Finally!" The caption read, "The main stars of the banquet, Elena and her date." The comments were worse, match made in heaven. They look perfect. Glad she found her real love. I stared at the screen. Not one tear, not one curse. I just typed under the post. After sneaking around for so many years, they finally dare to kiss openly. Congrats. I didn't expect her to read it. Maybe she never would. It wasn't for her anyway. It was for me. I turned off the lights, poured a glass of water, and sat in silence. It wasn't pain. It wasn't rage. It was stillness. A kind of quiet. Only people who've been disappointed too many times understand. A kind of quiet that says, "I saw this coming. I just didn't want to believe it." The door creaked open at 2:16 a.m. I didn't check the time. I just knew. The scent of wine hit the air first. Red, cheap, sour. Then came the sound of heels kicking against the wall, a muted thud, and her familiar stagger toward the kitchen. She muttered something under her breath and dropped her purse. Then silence, a long pause, and finally her voice, slurred and soft. "Frederick, I want hangover soup." I didn't move, not an inch. I heard her step closer to the bedroom, then stop at the threshold. She was swaying, breathing hard. The kind of breath that used to make me worry. Now it just filled the space. "Frederick," she whispered again. Still nothing from me. Eventually, she sighed, stumbled to the bathroom, and shut the door a little too hard. I kept my eyes closed the whole time, breathing slowly, pretending to sleep. When she came out and climbed into bed, the mattress shifted and I felt her hand graze my arm, testing for warmth. I didn't react. Minutes passed. Maybe hours. I stared at the inside of my eyelids and felt nothing. Morning came. I got up early. Earlier than usual, brushed my teeth in. Silence. Skipped the kitchen. Left the apartment. Without a sound. No breakfast, no reheated soup, no coffee with cinnamon dusted on top. The way she liked it. When I came home that night, she was already sitting on the couch, phone in hand. Fake smile on her face. "You didn't make breakfast," she said, half laughing, half accusing. I walked past her. She followed me to the kitchen. "Why didn't you come last night?" I opened the fridge. It was empty, save for a half-used tub of butter and expired juice. I wasn't invited. I said flatly. Oh, come on. She rolled her eyes, playfully tapping my arm. You know these events are chaotic. No one really brings plus ones. I looked at her. You brought James. Her expression froze for a moment. He just happened to be there. His company was one of the partners. I saw the video. A beat of silence. She looked down at her nails. You're being dramatic. It was just part of the celebration. It was a kiss, Elena. She scoffed, then laughed, like I was some overreacting child. Frederick, we were playing a game. The crowd yelled. People chanted. It was nothing serious. I smiled, not because I believed her, but because I finally didn't care if she lied. She stepped forward, brushing her hand against mine. Don't do this. Don't ruin things over nothing. I'm not ruining anything, I replied, moving past her. You already did. Her lips parted like she wanted to argue, but she didn't. She hated being the one chasing, and I wasn't the one chasing anymore. The days that followed blurred together. I started leaving the apartment before she woke up. Got to work early. Stayed late. I began volunteering for side projects, anything to stay out of that apartment a little longer. She began noticing. First, it was the untouched meals she left out. Then, the unwashed mugs piling up in the sink. One evening, I found her sitting at the table with 2 plates. Mine was cold. You didn't say you'd be working late, she said. I didn't know I had to. Her eyes searched my face for softness. She found none. That weekend, she tried cooking, her version of a peace offering. The rice was undercooked. The chicken was bland. I took one bite and went back to my room. Behind me, I heard her mumble, You used to love anything I made. I didn't respond, because I never did. I just loved her. And that was over. She began texting more than usual. Little things. Want me to pick you up from work? Need anything from the store? Dinner tonight? I replied only when necessary. One-word answers, no emojis, no punctuation, one night. She stood by the door as I slipped on my shoes. You're seeing someone else. It wasn't a question. I looked up at her. Would that change anything? She didn't answer. She just watched me leave. For the first time since we moved in together, she started calling me during the day. I stopped picking up. I caught her watching me from the kitchen one morning, phone in her hand, trying to act casual. Her eyes followed me as I tied my tie. I caught her gaze in the reflection of the mirror. I smiled. Not warmly, just smiled. She flinched. Elena used to be good at control. She knew how to pivot an argument, how to cry at the exact second to disarm me, how to whisper, "Don't leave," and make it sound like a promise. But now she was fumbling, and I wasn't catching her anymore. She began to stay home more often. I noticed it, but didn't comment. She'd ask, "What do you want for dinner?" And I'd shrug. She'd joke, "You're awfully quiet these days," and I'd just nod. Once, she sat beside me on the couch, trying to rest her head on my shoulder. I shifted slightly, just enough for her to miss. She didn't try again. She started wearing the necklace I got her for our first anniversary, the one that had sat untouched in the drawer for over a year. Suddenly, it was around her neck every morning, a silent reminder, or maybe a silent plea. Either way, it didn't matter. The necklace didn't glow the way it used to, neither did she. We spoke less, slept on opposite ends of the bed, ate separately, but there were no fights, no screaming, no dramatic goodbyes, just silence. One night, I caught her scrolling through old photos on her phone. She had paused on a picture of us, me smiling, her half-laughing, sunlight behind us. She quickly turned the screen off when she saw me watching. I turned back to my book. She didn't say a word. She didn't need to. She knew I had changed, and this time, I wasn't coming back. I used to think love was supposed to hurt a little, that it was normal to bend, to wait, to give more than you got, as long as the person you loved stayed. Maybe that's what I mistook for strength. Holding on when everything in me whispered to let go. There was a time I structured my entire life around. Elena's convenience, waking up early so I could make her breakfast, skipping late meetings to be home before she was, turning down a regional management offer because it involved relocation, and she said she wasn't ready to move. I told myself it was fine, that I had time, that I could always earn more. But you don't realize what you're giving up until you've already lost it. When my colleagues moved ahead, new titles, bigger paychecks, cross-department recognition, I clapped for them. I kept my head down, focused on my routines, on stability. I thought if I just stayed steady, love would return in the form I gave it. But I was, building a home with someone who kept slipping the bricks out from underneath me. Now I spend more time at the office than I do at home, voluntarily, and for the first time, it feels like a choice, not a punishment. There's a calm in paperwork. In deadlines, in clear expectations? No. Guessing what mood the spreadsheet is in. No deciphering passive-aggressive texts. No wondering who she's with when she's not home. I sit at my desk and sip coffee that's gone cold. I check the clock, not to see if she's texted, but to count how many more hours I can get done before the rest of the team arrives. Elena messaged me again today, then deleted it 2 minutes later. She's been doing that a lot, sending messages and pulling them back. I don't ask why. I don't care to know. Once, I would have obsessed over those unsent words, tried to guess what she was going to say. Maybe something soft, maybe something apologetic, maybe just another manipulation wrapped in nostalgia. But now I just swipe left and delete the entire chat thread. Silence is addictive when you've been starved of it for years. She came by the office this week, unannounced, told the front desk she had something for me, a lunchbox wrapped in one of the fabric napkins I bought from that overpriced store she liked. The receptionist looked confused, handing it over. "Your wife?" she asked. "No," I said. "Just someone who used to know me." Inside was overcooked pasta, her version of effort, with a tiny note folded beside it. "Hope you're eating well." I left it in the break room fridge. Someone else can eat it. I'm not interested in forced redemption. Back when James had the flu, Elena made him chicken ginger soup, hand-squeezed orange juice, and even bought him silk pajamas so he could recover in comfort. When my dad came home from surgery, she said she didn't want to intrude. Told me she didn't feel close enough to visit. I had driven 3 hours just to pick her up when her mom had a flat tire. But my father's recovery wasn't worth the Uber ride. It's funny how clearly things come into focus once you stop making excuses for someone else. I used to reread our messages when we fought, scroll through our old photos, look for signs that she cared. I'd send texts explaining myself, opening my chest like an autopsy. She'd reply with K or stop overthinking. Now I don't scroll, I don't search, I don't even check her feed. For all I know, she could be posting poems about heartbreak or vacationing with James in Tuscany. It's no longer my concern. I grab lunch with my coworkers more often now, people I used to say no to, because I had to be home just in case she wanted to eat together. She rarely did. Now I try new restaurants. Laugh louder, even drink on weekdays, Martha. From HR asked me the other day if I'd always been this easy to talk to. I shrugged. I guess I just stopped being tired. The D. Old me would have declined every invite, would have sat by the window, phone in hand, waiting for Elena's location to update, wondering if she was really at dinner with friends, or if James would be there again. Now, if she's with James, I hope the food's good. The man I was used to explain her behavior to everyone. She's just busy. She's stressed. She's not like this usually, but she was. I just didn't want to believe it. I saved for a ring once, a full year of cutting expenses. Walking instead of Ubering, skipping out on the new phone just to buy something elegant. When I asked Elena what kind of rings she liked, she said, "Let's not rush. Marriage isn't everything." A week later, she spent half our joint savings on a limited edition watch for James. It was a thank you gift, she explained. He helped me close a big deal. When I raised an eyebrow, she laughed. "Don't be petty." I wasn't being petty. I was being erased. Now I'm slowly rebuilding. Piece by piece. Promotion reviews are coming up next. Quarter, I'm leading 2 cross-functional projects. My name is finally being mentioned in rooms I used to only dream about. Not because I fought for it, but because I stopped fighting for someone else's approval. I'm growing into someone I like, waking up as I still go home, but it's no longer my sanctuary. It's a transition space, a place to sleep, to shower, to plan my next move. The air between Elena and me is stretched thin. She's trying harder now. Texts, dinner attempts, even wearing that old perfume I once loved, but nothing lands. Because I'm not the same man she met. I used to flinch when she raised her voice. Now I blink. I used to explain myself. Now, I let silence answer for me. I used to wait. Now I walk. The other night, she asked if I wanted to watch something together. We haven't in a while, she said, sitting too close on the couch. I've got a report to finish, I told her, picking up my laptop. Her smile faltered. She stared at the screen a little longer than necessary. You used to care about us. I did, I said. Too much, she didn't reply, just stood up and walked to the bedroom. I typed slowly, pausing between lines. There was no pain in my chest, no urge to run after her, just space, just peace, and for the first time in years, that was enough. At 6:01 p.m., my phone buzzed. I'm outside. I'll drop you home. I hadn't asked her to come. I hadn't mentioned my car was in for repairs, but somehow she knew, or guessed. That used to impress me. Now, it only made me suspicious of how closely she was watching. I slung my laptop bag over my shoulder, wrapped up the last email, and took the elevator down. When I stepped out of the building, the parking lot was empty. No Elena. Another buzz. Where are you? I've been waiting for 10 minutes. I looked around. Only a few cars, none familiar. I called her. I'm literally outside. What's taking you so long? She snapped. I don't see you, I said calmly. She sighed. I'm parked in front of Panda Tower. Same place as always. I smiled. The kind of smile that doesn't reach the eyes. Panda Tower isn't my building, I said. That's James's office. The silence on the other end said everything. She had defaulted to his building, not mine. Not the place I've worked at for 5 years. Not the place I moved to so I could be closer to her. Just like muscle memory. Her instincts led her to him. My hand tightened around the phone. Then I said, I'll take the subway. Don't bother. Wait, Frederick. I ended the call, the first time I'd ever done that to her, and it felt good. When I got home, she was already there, sitting on the couch like she hadn't mistaken every part of me for someone else hours ago. Hey, she said gently, standing. I tried to surprise you. I must have mixed up the buildings in my mind. I walked past her, placing my keys in the bowl near the door. You didn't mix anything, I replied. You just remember his world better than mine. She followed me to the kitchen as I pulled out a single chicken breast and some leftover vegetables. I was thinking we could watch that new crime doc. Tonight, she said carefully. I even bought popcorn. I started slicing silently, 1 plate, 1 fork. She watched, lips pressed together. You're only cooking for yourself. I nodded. I don't want to waste food. Her breath hitched. She stood frozen for a moment, then turned away. Later, I heard her crying in the bedroom. I didn't go in, didn't knock, didn't ask. The soup I didn't make for her had already been made for someone else years ago. The next few days were quiet. She didn't say much, just lingered more than usual. Stared at me longer when I left. Left the house late like she was waiting for me to say something. I didn't. Then on Sunday, I found her at my parents' front door. She was holding flowers. Wearing that sky blue dress she knew my mom liked. Her makeup was softer. Her posture delicate, almost childlike. Auntie, she said brightly. Uncle, it's been too long. My mother blinked. Surprised. My father gave a polite nod. They invited her in. She sat with them like it was something she'd always done. Smiling, attentive, asking questions about my dad's health. I watched from the hallway for a moment. Detached. Her laugh echoed off the walls. My mom was already softening, my father, harder to read. When they left the room to grab the dessert Elena had brought, I stepped in. She turned toward me like she'd won something. "Elena," I said quietly. "You've never been here before," I said. She looked down. "I know. That's why I wanted to come. I was stupid before. I just wanted to fix things." I stared at her. "Do you remember when my father was in the hospital and asked to see you?" Her smile faded. "You said you'd be in the way, that you weren't family?" She swallowed. "But James had a sore throat that day," I continued. "And you made soup. You stayed over. That was different, Frederick. I didn't know how serious it was with your dad." "No," I said. "You just didn't care enough to find out." Her voice cracked. "I'm here now. I brought gifts. I'm trying to show I care." I nodded slowly. "Right now, I'm slipping away." "Please don't say that," she whispered, stepping closer. I took a step back. "You think effort now erases absence?" Back then, I was confused. "You were comfortable." "I was scared." "You were selfish." She reached for my hand. "Frederick, I love you." I pulled away before she could touch me. "You love knowing someone's still willing to forgive you." She opened her mouth again, eyes glossy. "I don't need the explanation," I said. "I've heard all the versions." Her shoulders trembled. She tried to speak, to rewrite history through fresh tears and a softened tone, but I didn't stay to listen. I walked out of the room while her sentence was still hanging in the air, unfinished, just like us. The invitation came midweek. A text from Elena, short and polite, as if she hadn't cried in my parents' hallway days earlier. "Lucas and the others are getting together Saturday night. They want you to come too. I'll be there. Would mean a lot if you came." I stared at the screen for a moment, thumb hovering. Then I replied, "Sure." She didn't expect that. I could tell by the delay in her follow-up. "Great. See you then." It wasn't curiosity that made me say yes. It wasn't hope. It was the slow, deliberate need for closure, to stand in the same space as the people who had quietly exiled me and say nothing at all. The gathering was at Lucas's apartment. I recognized the building, the balcony with the fairy lights, the music floating from the third floor. I'd been here before, back when I was naive enough to think shared memories equaled loyalty. When I stepped inside, the room was already full. Familiar faces, laughter that didn't quite reach the eyes. Martha smiled at me from across the room and gave a small wave. James was holding a glass of wine, talking to two people who were obviously hanging on his every word. Elena stood beside him in a soft pink dress, hair curled at the ends, nervous smile. Her eyes met mine, and I saw it, a flicker of something unsure. Maybe regret, maybe fear. I nodded once. Said nothing. An hour passed in easy small talk. I kept to the corner, drink in hand, speaking only when addressed. People glanced at me often, as if waiting for me to crack, to say something, to act like the man they used to laugh at behind closed doors. Then Lucas clapped his hands. All right. We've got something special tonight." I turned. James stepped forward with practiced confidence, holding a bouquet of red roses. 15 years ago, "This incredible woman confessed to me," he began, voice projecting. "I didn't respond then because I wanted to give her the life she deserved. Now I'm finally ready to give her everything." Gasps, cheers. Elena stood frozen. James stepped closer. "Elena," he said, lifting the flowers toward her. "I think it's time we stop pretending. I was always meant to be with you." The crowd erupted. Applause, laughter. Even Martha was clapping. Then came the silence. Because I was clapping too. Slow, steady, smiling. All eyes turned to me. I stepped forward, calm as stone. "Wow," I said. "Congratulations." The third wheel finally got promoted. The air shifted. Someone choked on their drink. Lucas blinked. Elena's face dropped. James narrowed his eyes. "What's your problem?" I tilted my head. "Problem? Not at all. Just impressed. Took you 15 years and a viral kiss to get here. Bold strategy." "Frederick, please," Elena stammered. I continued, pulling out my phone. "If we're celebrating honesty, let's be thorough." I tapped the screen and played the video. The kiss. The cheers, the dress, the spotlight, the timestamp. The truth. The room went dead silent. Elena turned pale. James stiffened. That was out of context, he said. Oh, I raised an eyebrow. So context is the issue, not the act itself. Elena stepped forward, panicked. Frederick, I didn't want it to happen like that. I didn't plan. I held up a hand. You kissed him. You didn't flinch. You smiled. And then you lied over and over. I didn't lie, she whispered, voice cracking. I was confused. No, I said. You were convenient, Martha interjected, stepping in defensively. Okay, that's enough. She's trying, Frederick. You can't humiliate her like this. I turned to her, calm. You stood by every time she erased me from this group. Every time I wasn't invited. Every time she needed James more than me, and you said nothing. She looked away. James stepped forward now, jaw tight. She doesn't need to explain herself to you. You clearly weren't enough. That's not her fault. I smiled. The room waited for me to explode, for the scene to boil, for me to break, scream, cry, but I didn't. I just slipped the phone back into my pocket and turned to Elena. I'll be late tonight, I said. Work is calling, she blinked. You're leaving? Of course. I nodded toward the roses still dangling from James's hand. Your evening's just getting started. Frederick, wait. But I was already at the door and I didn't look back. Not once. The sound of the lock clicking behind me felt like a door closing on a version of myself I no longer needed. The man who once begged for her love had left the room long before I did. 3 months passed. Seasons shifted. Promotions were announced. My name was at the top of the list. I didn't tell anyone. Not my colleagues. Not my parents. Not Elena. The offer came with overseas relocation, double the pay, company apartment, leadership role. A clear step forward. I signed the contract the same day and booked a one-way ticket. The next morning, Elena left another lunchbox at the office front desk. Same napkin wrap, same note inside. Take care of yourself. EI handed it to the new intern. You can have it, I said. I already ate. Sometimes I saw her waiting across the street, standing beside a lamppost, pretending to scroll through her phone. Her hair would be tucked neatly behind her ear, that old anxious habit I'd seen hundreds of times before arguments. She never crossed the street. I never waved. She sent messages occasionally, then deleted them. Sometimes she followed up with photos of things we used to like. Our favorite coffee shop. The dog that lived next door to our old apartment. I never replied. Martha called once. She's trying, Frederick, she said gently. James is out of the picture. He left the country. She's different now. She was always different when she lost, I said. She just never expected to lose me. I deleted Martha's number after that. I cleaned out my apartment 2 weeks before the move, packed only what I needed, left behind every trace of our time together. The postcards from our weekend trips, the gray hoodie she always wore, her favorite ceramic mug, cracked at the lip, still stained from tea. I left it all. The digital purge followed next. Photos, chats, old voicemails. I didn't just delete them. I emptied the trash folder, too. My parents were proud of the move. My mom cried a little. My dad clapped me on the back and said, "Told you you'd find your footing." They didn't ask about Elena. They didn't have to because she'd already found her way back into their lives. I discovered it one weekend when I dropped by, unannounced. The floors were spotless. The spice rack organized. My father was watching the news with ginger tea in hand, his favorite. My mother said, "Elena's been visiting." I nodded. I wasn't surprised. She was methodical like that. Rebuild the side that loved her most, work her way in through the warmth. She cleaned the whole kitchen, my mom added. Cooked, too. Even brought homemade dumplings. She's kind, I said. You're not angry? No. Then what are you? Done. The next Sunday, I found her sitting in the garden with my mom, helping prune the roses. She stood when she saw me, brushing dirt from her hands. Hi. Hi. Her eyes searched mine for softness. I didn't give her any. I didn't come here to chase you, she said. I just wanted to help. I know. I miss you, Frederick. I paused, then nodded toward the house. My mom's in there. She'd probably like some help folding laundry. She blinked, then dropped her gaze. That evening, as she prepared to leave, I walked her to the gate. "You don't have to do this," I said. "I want to." "You should live for yourself," I told her. "Stop doing this for a man who left you." She stared at me, not crying, just breathing slowly. "Do you really think it's too late?" "Yes," I said, "because it took you losing me to realize you had me." She nodded, lips trembling. "Will you ever come back?" "Not for you." She turned away, walked down the sidewalk. I didn't watch her disappear. The night before my flight, I stayed with my parents. Packed light, just one suitcase and a carry-on. At breakfast, my mom handed me a tiffin for the plane. "There's no home-cooked food abroad," she said. Forcing a smile, she insisted on walking me out to the car. "Call me when you land," she said. "Even if it's late, I will." Then just before I stepped inside, her phone buzzed. A video call from my father. I glanced at the screen. In the background, near the window, stood Elena. She was wearing the navy blue dress from our first anniversary shoot, the one I used to say made her look like the start of a story. Her eyes met mine. I smiled. Then I ended the call without a word and got into the car. The plane took off an hour later. I didn't look back once. I landed in a city that smelled like new ambition. I set up my apartment, unpacked, met the new team, walked home under foreign skies. At night, I thought of many things, but never of her. Not in the way I used to. The memories remained, but they belonged to a different man. A man who waited, who begged, who believed love meant being last and still staying. He's gone now. This new year. My mother asked if I'd be bringing someone home. "Maybe," I said. Then I smiled at my screen and added, "Maybe I'll rent one, just to keep everyone guessing."